All right, we are live.
Sorry about that, guys. Feeling out the technical difficulties of a new area here.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining. So, Kyle, did you want to kind of give everyone the instructions before we get started? Oh, Kyle might be having internet issues. Our Wi-Fi has been really bad at this house. He's probably trying to switch over to his personal hotspot to tether it. So when Kyle comes back in, we'll let him fill you guys. Oh, Kyle, you there?
I'm here. What's up?
Hey, did you want to give everybody the rundown of how they can get a hold of you if they want to be brought in live?
Absolutely. So if you would love to send a text message into us, you got a question for David, I'm going to put a little banner down here at the bottom. Send your question specifically related to David's topic, which he's going to get into here in a minute, to 833-777-0309. And we'd love to bring you live here on the call. So David, do you want to give a little bit of a rundown on what today's topic is going to be?
Yeah, but first off, can we get that number changed to 8675309 by any chance?
I don't know. Can we?
Can you look into that? See if we can get the simple texting number there. Yeah. So guys, text your question to the number that Kyle gave here. I think it's running across the screen. Kyle will talk to you, and if it looks good, we'll bring you on to talk. What we basically like to talk about is what's going on in the market right now. So I've got my two chief operating officers here with me. All of us are involved in real estate. Kyle handles all of my clients, my personal friends. He's the chief operating officer of the David Greene Team. Christian's chief operating officer and my partner in the OneBrokerage. He also buys a lot of short-term rentals. He often partners with people on his deals. So we can, wow. And if there's, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there is awesome lightning going on. Like, I guess you'd have to just look at the top of my dome to be able to see that. I wonder if Kyle, like if you move your seat around to the other side,
how about behind the shine?
Yes. Yeah, it's like super cool. We're hearing like lightning and thunder. We're up in we're in Scottsdale, up in the mountains, basically, and coming to you guys live from there. So we came out here to kind of get away, bond a little bit, compare notes with businesses. If you could, Kyle, I just think it'd be cool if you switch your seat to the other side of the table so they could just see the stuff behind you. I don't know if your cord goes that far, but yeah. If you guys want to talk about what's going on in the market, what we're buying, what we're seeing. Christian here is a lending whiz. He can answer all kinds of questions about all kinds of loans. I thought I was good at it until I met him. Kyle is very good with negotiating. He's one of the best agents in the country. He does a great job with pretty much all of our clients and the big stuff. So tell us what you guys are thinking. I'll talk about the houses I'm buying. We'll talk about what we're seeing in the market. We've got, I think the David Greene Team closes about somewhere between 20 and 40 deals a month that Kyle sees, and Christian's probably seen about 200 something loans a month that are coming through. So we've got a lot of clients that are also finding deals, finding opportunities, having things go right and wrong. And so we're here to share it with you guys today. Oh, look at R says, in the hospital now, my daughter was born this morning. Cocomelon Boy is now a big brother. Well, congratulations on that,
Congrats.
R.
That's
awesome.
exciting.
I don't have any kids, but we were just talking about Kyle's son Isaac being born yesterday, actually. Oh, that lightning is so cool, dude. I've never been here. Like a storm.
How does this look? Can you kind of see a little bit more?
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anyone to bring on yet?
Not quite. You want to give maybe a little bit of just a little bit of a bumper of what you've seen so far in this market?
Well, I would say everyone sees that interest rates have gone up. That's been, like the biggest change that we've seen. And rates don't determine prices. Supply and demand determine prices, but rates do affect demand. So we've seen demand decrease as rates have gone up. Kyle, are you going to get blown away out there? Does the wind really strong?
It's crazy. Yeah, I might have to come in.
Like floating off. That's crazy if it's too loud. Cool though. We're having like our first storm. So as demand has decreased, we have seen prices drop. Now, I think the question that everyone's trying to figure out is this a permanent thing? Are we heading into a recession? Are prices going to continue dropping? Is this a dip? Or is this just entirely predictable? Like houses are a little less affordable, so prices are going to have to come down to match that. So what I want to know is, what are you guys thinking when it comes to this market? Who is shaking and shivering like they're in the middle of a storm like this, trying to figure out what should I expect? Who's feeling confident? What questions do you guys have for us about what to expect? For the record, if you guys haven't heard, I've bought probably 15 or 16 homes in the last 45 days. I've been on like a tear, and Poor Christian here has to
Can
figure
confirm,
out how to
you've been
get
busy.
financing for all those properties. And we're also putting together a couple different events, like a retreat out here in Scottsdale. I think that we hit our goal, so we're actually opening it up to a couple more people. So if you guys are interested in checking out the Scottsdale retreat, if you want to come see this beautiful area and learn from me about what I've been buying, how I've been finding it, how I negotiated it, what I target when I'm looking for properties, how I got on market deals, that's what I'll be teaching you guys. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I've bought around out of the 15 homes, there's about $1 million in equity over those houses. So if you look at what they appraised for versus what I paid, walking in on day one, it's a little over 7 figures of equity. Okay. So I obviously think this is a good time to be buying if you're buying the right properties. And that's really what the key is. Yeah, that's not including the seller credit.
Not including seller credit.
Probably maybe $250,000-$200,000 over those properties in credits that were negotiated for the sellers that I then use to go fix up the house or buy furniture for it or whatever the case may be. So don't be shy, guys and gals. Let's hear your questions here. Gladys, I would like to buy a 55 plus condo, but I don't know if this is going to cash flow. Short-term rentals is allowed by the association. I have never heard of a 55 plus condo that was allowed to do short-term rentals. I would double check that, Gladys. That's cool. I guess the question would be, who's visiting an area for 55 plus people? Do your tenants have to be over 55? Is it just the owner who buys it has to be over 55? There's a lot of questions about that one. I don't think I'd tell you to go forward with it if you don't know if it's going to cash flow. You definitely want to have a good feeling, a good plan that it is going to. Have you heard of anything like that before?
No, I do know some are specifically only able to be purchased and they don't necessarily have tenant laws, but I'd be careful too, because that's something that could very quickly change where, maybe there's too many parties, right, in the association that all of a sudden they don't want, the 20 and 30-year-olds to come in and mess with the retirement community, right? So I actually haven't heard of that either with a specifically zoned, senior area that would allow short-term rentals. Those seem to kind of be conflicting ideas. So I'd be careful there for sure. I don't personally own a 55 plus association, so I'm not an expert there, but I would just stress caution for sure.
I see what you're saying. It's Florida. I know you hear that whistling, huh, Kavish? That's how loud the wind is. It's literally, there's something like the chimney or something in this house. The wind is coming in and you're hearing that whistle. I'm tempted to move our seats so you guys can see how wild the storm is that's coming. We're in this cool house that has all windows. So it started there over those mountains and now like it's moved in. And if I leave it here long enough, you will see the lightning that's flashing. Like it just started right when we went live. So that's that you keep seeing me looking over to the side. It's because like Kyle had to come inside because it was so
it was crazy. It was crazy.
Was the wind really strong or just loud?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm seeing like the pool equipment and everything is like flying all over the place. Whoever said the desert doesn't rain? Our infinity pool's filling up. All right, we got to quit talking about the storm. You guys are here to learn about some real estate stuff. So thank you for your question.
We've only got one question so far into our text message line. So if you guys have a question, send it in there. And we'd love to bring you on camera with David, Christian, and myself.
Let's see here. Lavertus Brock Investing Channel. That's a very strong name, Lavertus Brock. David and Christian, I'm refinancing my duplex with y'all, one brokerage company. Thank you very much for that, Lavertus. The quickest way to make me like you is to do business with one of my companies. So you are now a friend. Thank you for that.
Malik, right?
What's your plan? Come in, Lavertus. Let's talk about your refinance you're doing. Is this a rate and term or is this a cash out refinance? And where are you thinking about investing that money? We all want to know. Kevin and Malik are handling it. Awesome. Let us know if they screw up or if they do great. Either way, we definitely want to know. You guys, don't be shy. This is your chance to be like live with me. Everybody's the fly on the wall until we get started here.
One person is going to start the waterfall.
Okay, it is a cash out refinance. Text Kyle, and Kyle will send you a link that you can click on to come into the studio, and we'll talk to you about what you plan on doing with the money or what we think that you should do with it. If you guys notice that little lion logo on the top there, that's there because it is the logo for my mastermind. So if you guys are interested in joining the mastermind, you can go to davidgreenemastermind.com. It is going to be going up in price pretty soon, and we're going to be making it even better. So if you're already a member of it, you're grandfathered in at the price that you came in at. New members will have to pay more, but either way, the thing's going to be better. We're going to be bringing in more content, more speakers, more stuff from me. Christian is basically like, I think every other Thursday, he comes in and he talks about loan programs, what's going on in the world of real estate, what's going on with the Fed. He follows that mortgage news really closely. Kyle talks a lot about negotiating strategies, how we're helping clients, and he kind of facilitates the different speakers. We have people come in about asset protection, commercial real estate investing, short-term rentals. How do I text Kyle? Okay, see the number on there, Lavertus, 833-777-0309. Text that, and Kyle is here to take your question. Julian Colvard, thank you, bro. I just met Fresh and Fit the other day, and I remember that you had reached out to them and got us connected. So I hope you saw me on the podcast. If you didn't, go to YouTube and catch me on their Money Monday there. Julian says, is the population decreasing again where you all are at? Julian, are you referring to Scottsdale, where we are right now, or California, where we normally live? Alexandra Morales said, hi, David. Do you recommend a newbie investor going to your Scottsdale retreat? Yes. This is going to be like the most attention you may ever get from a real estate investor teaching you how to invest in real estate in anywhere. It's not like a conference where people just come speak. It's going to be a very intimate setting. There's going to be a lot of other investors there. I'm going to be basically sitting there and pouring into you individually at 3 different sessions throughout the day about topics that are real estate fundamentals, long distance real estate investing, how to read supply and demand, negotiating strategies, how to pick a house that you have a better chance of getting, like very high level stuff. And I've never done this before. I'm then going to show you, of the houses I bought, how those techniques that I just taught you were used to buy that house. So I've never done that before. You're going to see, look at this house. This is exactly what I did. This is what the pictures look like. This is what the price was. Here's how we negotiated it. Christian will be there. Kyle will be there. They'll be able to kind of give you guys some background into how they helped with making it happen. And then you'll see what it appraised for, what I paid for it, what we think it's going to cash flow, all those details that you normally never get. So I would say for sure that's something that you should attend if possible. And you can just go to davidgreen24.com/retreat. Thank you for that, Kyle. All right, back to Julian's question. He says in California, I don't know that the population is decreasing. Okay. And I would say it could be decreasing, but the supply is so short, it wouldn't really affect our prices. It would have to be decreasing a lot more. My suspicion would be the people that are coming into California are probably, what's a really nice way to say this? They're probably having lower net worth than the people that are leaving it. So the population may be staying the same, but if the people coming in are not making as much money as the people going out, long-term, that's bad for an area. So you're going to see property taxes that will slowly start. I guess property tax might be the only one that doesn't decline, but you're going to see income taxes declining by a lot. Sales taxes will probably be declining there. However, I don't think California is a point where it's like this is going to be a problem. I think New York is in a position where that could be a problem. It's one of the reasons I'm in South Florida pretty heavy right now buying down there, because a lot of New Yorkers are leaving New York and they're going into South Florida. Atlanta, where Julian's from, I actually know him. And it's a red hot market. It's been kind of the market to be investing in. Miami is, in my mind, kind of like supplanted Atlanta as the hottest market in the country, which is great if you want to invest in Atlanta because you finally got a shot. You haven't had a shot for a very long time there. So I would say our population probably isn't technically declining, but I think that the quality of the people that are leaving, I think a lot of business owners are leaving. I think a lot of people that make good money and have good jobs in the businesses themselves are leaving California. But there is so much wealth in California. If you're not from here, it's hard for you to imagine. Okay, like there's so much wealth that there's so many people that want to buy real estate. I don't think that buying real estate there is. I'm still buying California real estate. I have one in contract there right now, and I've got several being rehabbed in that area. All right, we're finally getting the questions here. Yeah, I do see that. I'm trying to figure out if we should bring a Dan here. Wait. All right, Dude Real Estate. Text Kyle. You have a very good question there. We're going to bring in a caller here, and then we're going to see if we can get Dude Real Estate in next. Danny, what's going on?
Hey, David, how you doing, man?
You look familiar. I've seen you at my meetups, right?
Yeah. I've been to a few of them.
I'm trying to remember. Are you also a real estate agent or a flipper? What is it you do?
I've been trying to imitate you for the last couple of years. So I own 2 duplexes in Oakland. I pulled a HELOC on one and used the BRRRR to get into the other.
That's right. But I don't think you're using our real estate team, are you?
Not yet. Not yet.
That's why I remembered. I'm like, is he a rival agent? Why do I get that vibe? It's because you're using.
No.
That's
My
okay.
dad's an agent. That's the only reason I haven't reached out to you and worked with you. But I'm probably gonna try to work with you on the next loan.
Okay, I'd love that. Christian, what's the way that people can reach out?
Yeah, any loan inquiries, Kyle, you put a little banner up. Intake at the OneBrokerage.com is our general intake page. Sorry, guys, it is really getting spicy here with the rain. But right there on the bottom of the screen, if you just shoot an email inquiry over there, we got a team that manages that inbox. They'll get you linked up with a team member right away. If you have a loan inquiry, email on the bottom of the page.
All right, what are you thinking, Danny? By the way, you're on the way to being me. You got the hair and the beard down perfect.
Nice. Yeah, I sat in the barber chair. I said, I showed him a picture of you. He said, say less.
Give me the green, yeah.
So let's jump into this. Here's my question. I've got 2 duplexes. One is like pretty much up to the gills in debt and barely breaks even, and the other one actually probably has about $350,000 in equity in it. On that particular duplex, I have like four. Let me see here. I have $670 in debt. I'm at a blended interest rate of like, I don't know, 3.6, 3.7, something like that. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, as I'm looking at, how to do my next deal, considering pulling a new home equity line of credit, how do you think about the decision between pulling money out versus selling? And how do you consider, the potential loss of a super low 3.5% mortgage rate compared to keeping the property and adding on more debt and that kind of stuff? So how do you look at borrow more versus sell and buy more?
Yeah, I can answer just on the financing part, and I'll kind of let David, he's going to step aside here for a second with this crazy rain we got coming in. But we really preach a lot of the return on equity versus the return on investment formula. So when you're really looking at how much you still have deployed into that deal, obviously, run a current number with your appreciation that's taken place, your principal pay down. But that amount that's remaining, what's your monthly cash flow divided by the amount you have in? So for instance, if you only put $100,000 down when you bought it, but now you have, and you remind me the numbers, what was your equity that you have available in that property right now?
I think I'm in it for like 670 and it appraised for 860.
So that's, let's say 200K, right around that mark. So you have 200K that kind of got created there, not taking anything else in the deal into account, right? That's not including the amount you've paid down your mortgage. That's not including the cash flow and the rent that you've potentially got in the meantime. So if you're taking that now 200K plus what your actual infusion into the equity was at that point, right? That's what you're basing your return on. Instead of your initial investment of whatever your down payment was, 20% of 600, 120, now you're running it on 350, right?
Yeah.
Can you cash out that amount and calculate what the difference in your mortgage would be? Let's say there's going to be a $1,500 a month increase in your mortgage, right? Because a lot of people worry about losing the 3.5, but you have to tie it to what the actual number is, right? Losing that 3.5 is going to cost me to have $1,500 more a month in debt. That means whatever you go and do with that $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 has to not only compensate for $1,500 in debt, but it's got to put you in a better financial position now, right? So that's something where you may set your amount to be $500 extra in cash flow. So you're actually targeting a $2,000 increase because you have to make $1,500 just to break even, right? Now, if you have a project or a short-term rental or a long-term rental or something that you project those numbers possible, I'd say it's a good decision, right? Obviously, as rates continue to go up, the opportunities that are going to be available, right, and accessible to make that difference up are harder to find, right? But if you have a plan in place to generate $1,500, $2,000 a month in income by deploying $200 or $300 in capital, I would say that's an opportunity worth looking into. And once you really start scaling, you start to take into account the tax incentives too, because now if you can shave off $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 of your tax burden, we're talking an entirely different investment strategy now, right? Now you're not really looking at that monthly cash flow. You're saying, man, I'm terrified of my tax bill coming up. That's kind of the situation that David and I find myself in now. I have to go buy property because if I don't, I pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, right? And I don't have an option because it's either that or a massive loss, right? So once you start scaling up units, that'll be something that you very, very seriously have to start considering, right?
So second part of this question then, what are you doing to find deals that generate, that kind of better off position after disposing of a low interest rate property?
Yeah, really good question. I would say, in this market right now, short-term rentals are kind of the only thing that is capable of generating that much, right? I mean, we're staying at a short-term rental right now that, Kyle, we can share with what they kind of gave us projections for this house. Say they said this house makes 150 to 200,000 a year, and like this house is not. I mean, it's a nice place. Don't get me wrong, but this house is not like a once in a lifetime kind of property, right? And I mean, your debt service on this house would, absolutely probably be $7,000 to $8,000 a month. But if it's renting for $200, even after property management, you start to really see some opportunity there. Now, obviously, do your own due diligence. Finding an Airbnb that actually rents for $200,000 a year is hard. But if you're just asking the opportunities that I believe provide that kind of opportunity, I would have to default to short-term rentals.
Oh, all right. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, appreciate you joining in. All right, let me grab. I think David's out here taking pictures of the storm for you guys. I'm going to add in Christopher Miller here. Perfect. Hey, Chris.
Hey, how's it going, Dave? Good. Thanks for letting me join in.
Absolutely. David's just about to come back as well. He's out there weathering the storm.
All good. Yeah,
Welcome,
I would love
Christopher.
to talk a little bit about. Oh, thanks. I'd love to chat a little bit about trying to BRRRR, but if you don't have enough capital to buy outright, so you're basically doing a conventional loan twice, and some of the hurdles you run into. To give a really quick background, I bought a house probably about 4 years ago using a loan out of my 401k with my brother, built in 1892. We're in Southern California, and we renovated the whole thing ourselves, and we were able to put a lot of equity into it, and so we ended up getting a HELOC for about $250. We're also legalizing an ADU on the property. And then I took that $250, bought a house up in the mountains here. We're able to BRRRR it successfully. It cash flows and it's great. And I learned a lot in that process. But now I have about 200 in my 401k. And that's just not reasonable to buy something in Southern California, even if I'm getting creative out in a little bit further out. So I'm thinking about using some of that and doing a conventional loan towards another investment property. But right now, interest rates, I'm getting quoted at about 6.5%. So there's a lot of cost there. Obviously, my HELOC has an interest rate right now. I think it's at 4 or 4.75. And then my loan officers tell me that all the loans right now you have to pay points on. So now I'm paying a point to a 1.5 to 2 points, depending on how I do the loan, even if I try to buy something with a second home loan or something like that.
Sure.
So that's a cost. And then I'm financing it twice, right? So I'm paying the finance process twice. And then also, I don't think you can refinance for 6 months or a year or so after you do a loan. So now I'm putting all my money on hold before I can do it again. And I'm excited to maybe do this more than once a year. So those are some of the headwinds I'm running into if I try and use a conventional loan to BRRRR right now in today's market. I was wondering if you have any solutions that maybe overcome some of those headwinds.
Yeah, good question. Specifically for the seasoning, that's the easiest one for me to just answer immediately. The seasoning can be brought down to 3 months with a non-QM loan. A lot of our DSCR loans and some of those loans that you've heard us talk about on the podcast or videos, we can cash out before that 6 month process. So that's helpful. So helps your capital deployment timeline. And as far as the goal, it sounds like you're trying to keep this $200,000 moving as quickly as possible. Right. But what you're also trying to do is every deal, hopefully you're making that 200 into 210 and then 220. And the idea is that constantly grows so that your deployment starts growing. Right. So whether it's your job income or the taxes that you're saving by buying real estate or the cash flow or the increased equity, you should be targeting to not just have that same dollar move around a lot of times, but now that dollar's increasing into more dollars that you can then move around as well. Right. And it sounds super simple, but when you consider how many times, that's going to allow you, and I don't know if you consider out of state, but now if that 220 has gotten past maybe you have $100 per property, you can go do it twice. And you're talking about doing it multiple times a year, right? It sounds like you're pretty stuck on doing it in California. Is that like the long-term thing is outside the question?
No, I'm open to out of state, but I'm ready tomorrow to make an offer here, and I feel like the out of state, I don't have the confidence or the competence to
Sounds like a
move
boots on the ground
tomorrow.
thing. It sounds like you were pretty involved, right?
Yeah. And, I was really hoping to grow that HELOC money with the refinance on each one.
Mm-hmm.
And the appraisal, when I did the cash out refi, came in lower than what we were hoping. But it was right as rates were increasing, and I was going to lose my rate if I tried to change banks. And it was going to be a significant jump. And so that's why we left about $50,000 in the deal. But I mean, I bought that deal, I mean, all in with repairs, we were at $290 in. And I rented out for $3,000. So we're cash flowing $1,200 a month, which is great. I just wish I could have cash out, refied more of that so that I could, that could have been 300,000 and moving forward. So now I'm down to 200.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So he's a situation where he's trying to deploy capital, considering out of state, boots on the ground, questions coming up. But him and his dad have done it in California, had some success, but a low appraisal, higher rates is making it harder to access that equity and continue the velocity of it.
So what's your biggest, what's the thing you're trying to figure out to know which direction you should go?
Yeah, so what I was kind of sharing is that I would like to do the BRRRR method. We did that once, and it was exciting. I'm excited to continue doing that as I'm trying to grow. But as I was kind of sharing, some of the headwinds I'm running into are interest rates are no longer 3%. I'm getting 6.5, and then I'm paying points on each one of them, anywhere from 1 to 2 points. And then you're financing it twice if you try and do a conventional loan at the beginning. So you're paying those fees twice. And then you have to wait longer to refinance again if you use conventional versus buying it outright with a HELOC, and then refinancing.
So those are the headwinds, right? But what do those headwinds do that give you an advantage? How can you use those to your advantage?
I can buy today versus waiting until some of those get down, like interest rates and things like that.
Well, let's say okay, so every issue you're having, every other investor's having too. Okay. So there's a lot of people that are just going to say, I don't want to do this because rates are too high. So now there's going to be properties that are on the market that weren't on the market before. You're going to have an opportunity. The people that are going to buy houses in today's market probably don't want a fixer upper. If they buy anything, they want cream of the crop. I think we can all agree conventional wisdom would say, when the market's rough, you take what you can get. When the market right now, everyone's like, oh, convince me why I should buy it. So your competition's out there, and they're only chasing after the nicest turnkey thing. So the California property that I mentioned earlier is a BRRRR. It's a property that is in one of the best cities in the whole Bay Area, Castro Valley, incredibly good schools. I mean, we've had clients that tried to buy there the last 5 years, literally could not get a house. It did not matter. They would pay whatever the seller wanted. Couldn't get it because so many people wanted it. Well, this is an 1,100 square foot home with 1 bathroom, 3 bedrooms, and no one's touching it. It had listed at like a little under $1 million, had dropped all the way down to $850, and still no one was touching it because it's just a small house with 1 bathroom. And right now, nobody wants to buy because they're all thinking that the market's going to crash. This house happens to be sitting on a gigantic basement. Like the entire house was sitting on a basement. I would double the square footage, as well as a very big 2-car garage that is attached to that basement. So I'm getting even more square footage. Then it had a sunroom in the back with the utility room that was already built onto it, just begging to be turned into a studio or a 1-bedroom, like I don't know what you would call it. Like there's a fancy name for a small unit. I can't think of it right now. It's not utility unit. It's something. No, it's like it has to do like efficiency unit. I think that's what I was trying to say. An efficiency unit, right? So I'm buying that one for like $830 plus some closing costs. And I'm going to turn it in from an 1,100 square foot house into like a 2,500 square foot house. Okay. The comps at 2,500 square foot are about 1.5 million. Now I probably won't get the full 1.5 on that because the square footage won't be permitted, but it's still additional square footage. I'll get something for it. Right. So this is a BRRRR opportunity that I never would have had the chance to buy this thing at all if I was trying to do when rates were low. Because rates were high, the competition backs out. They definitely back out of anything that requires work. They don't want anything to do with that. And guess who finally has time to take on deals like this? Contractors, because the market's not on fire. Yeah. So now you're getting them returning your calls. They're like, yeah, man, let's do a deal. Yeah, I'm like, hey, I don't like that price. Okay, let's fix that for you, right? Like You haven't had the opportunity to do that in a long freaking time. So you have to always be looking at, like, when you're playing football and it's raining. Did you play football by chance? I'm totally stereotyping you right now. Am I right?
I did. Yeah,
okay. You're always okay to stereotype as long as you get it right. Right. Well, you got to play in the rain or something. Everyone complains about it, but you got to remember the other team's playing in the rain too. Right. Yeah. I used to play basketball and I hated playing on dirty floors, but you had to remember the other team played on dirty floors and they were slipping around just as much as we were. So whenever you're facing those kind of headwinds, you got to look at, well, other people are facing it. Do I have an advantage? Am I better at football in the rain? Do we have a better running game than they do because you can't throw the ball? Then it's actually good that it's raining if you have a better running game or a better offensive line, that type of stuff. So hearing all that, what's popping up to your mind as far as where opportunities might be for you?
No, I mean, my logic goes right with you. Like, as it gets harder, there's less people in the market, which means there's more deals out there. And you're 100% right with the getting people to do work on the properties. I was trying to find contractors a year ago, and it was hard to get their interest. And now I can imagine it'd be a lot easier. Can I throw another question at you since we're talking about the state of the market?
Only because I sport profiled you. So go ahead, man.
Fair.
Hang on. Hold your question. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, you also glossed over real quick too, but one of your objections was paying 2 rounds of closing costs. On this deal, I only know because I'm doing David's deal. His closing costs are all paid by the seller. And we're buying down his rate.
Thank you.
So, you're taking those 2 rounds of closing costs, and on the first round, the seller's paying for it. On the second round, your equity pays for it. So your actual dollars out of your pocket, if you structure your deal correctly, shouldn't be paying either of those closing costs, right? One is the sweat equity that you built, which is not $1 out of your pocket. And the other one's coming from the seller because you wrote a competitive offer in an environment where the field's muddy, right? And everybody's playing on the muddy field. So you can get seller credits. You can get 2 or 3% of the purchase price credited to you and buy that rate down by 0.5%, a full percent. And even after that, now the rate's not so bad, right? You're 6.5. What if it was a 5.75? Your deal probably works a little bit better, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you for bringing that up.
You don't see that on paper when you're trying to think about the numbers. The fact that negotiating
and you also
creates other opportunities.
You also don't think about that, Chris, because it hasn't been a thought you were allowed to entertain for the last 8 years.
Yeah,
there were no sellers paying closing costs. That did not exist, right? And we're creatures of habit. So when you see there's a shift in the market, which is what we see, the vast majority of people, 90% of them go, I don't want anything to do with this. Hold up. I don't want to buy property right now. Well, the smart people say, I'm not going to be foolish. I'm not going to go buy a dumb deal, but where would opportunity be? That's where you hear me saying things like you can buy in the best areas, houses you would not be able to buy at all. Those are going to hold their value regardless of what interest rates do. You think like Beverly Hills 90210 properties are going to crash if interest rates go up? I don't think so. Do you think properties in Malibu are going to get hammered? Right? Do you think Newport Beach? Do you think even Manhattan, like with what's going on in New York, that real estate's not getting tanked, right? You have opportunities you wouldn't have had, and sellers will pay closing costs. So let's say Kyle's your real estate agent. He's going to go in there, and they're going to be listed at $850, and he's going to figure out which is the most motivated seller. He's going to find the person that will sell at $750. Then he's going to get you $25,000 in closing cost credit because they have no other buyers. They just have to take it. Then when the inspection report comes back, he's going to go get you another $20,000. Then you're going to say, I got $45,000 in closing cost credits. I can't actually use this much money. All right. And then you're going to go to Christian and he's going to say, well, what we can do is buy your rate down. So now you were quoted at what's like an average quote we might give an investor, 8, 7,
like 6.25 right now.
All right, that's not bad. Okay, you're quoted at 6.25, and no one else wanted that house because that rate's high. Well, when you've got an extra $30,000 to buy the rate down, you might buy it down to 5 or 5.5 or 5.25. Okay. Now, none of your competition thought about that. They didn't want to touch that house, but you went in there and you got it at 5.25, and it had other people been able to get that rate. They would have paid the $850 that it was listed for, not the $750 that Kyle got it for you for. Okay. So I'm not trying to like spin this to make it look like nothing bad happens in real estate, but I'm saying we're all playing on the same freaking field. It's muddy for everyone. It's raining for everyone. So how do you change your game to adapt to the conditions that you're at? That's what we're here to talk about today. So what's your follow-up question after that?
I'll even add to that. I think what you're telling me too is I need to look at the players on my team, because right now I feel like I'm doing a lot of this on my own, and I'm using Redfin, and I have a realtor that I reach out to, but I maybe don't have one like Kyle or a loan officer that's used to maybe some of these techniques. So the people around me maybe adjusting
Your
it
team
so
will
I can get more
find your
effective.
deals. Yeah. Your team will find you these opportunities.
Let me tell you how it works when you have a good team like us. Okay. Let's say that we have a problem with the OneBrokerage. There's like a flaw in the system. We're not getting people through the funnel very well, whatever it is. Christian will come to me and he'll say, hey, David, this is the problem we had. We had a customer complaint. I traced it back. The problem is right here in the process, right? I will use my experience and my knowledge of doing this for as long as I have to say, okay, here's how we're going to fix that problem. It just saved him 6 months of trying to figure this out by trial and error because I've already got there. Boom, the problem gets fixed for Christian super fast. He gets back to being productive, getting more loans to close, okay? Then I will have a deal that I'm trying to buy, and we'll run into a hang-up. My debt-to-income ratio isn't high enough. There's a problem with the lender wanting it to be permitted, and I don't want to get permits, whatever the case is. I could sit there and make 100 phone calls and find someone that knows how to fix this. I see you nodding because you've been there before. Or I could say, Christian, I have a problem. What do you think I should do? And he'd say, oh, we have 200 other clients. I've seen this happen 6 other times in the last year. This is what we do. And he saves me all that time, right? When you have the good team, same could go with Kyle, right? Hey, Kyle, this is the property I want to buy. Can you look this up for me? He knows exactly where to go to look up and find the numbers that I'm going to need for that. I'm not going to go do that. He's going to come back to me and say, I looked up these other 3. This one actually might be better than the one you sent. And then he's going to call the listing agent to find out how bad they want to play ball. If you're doing all that work yourself, right, you will make progress, but it's going to be like you're always walking or running uphill.
Yeah.
And it's not fun. No one does real estate investing or anything if it's not fun. You got to find a way to make it fun.
I got asked this question the other day. Do you guys think David uses realtors when he's buying out of state? Or do you think he tries to go find off-market properties on his own and do all that? Like, what do you guys think David
Let's hear
does?
that in the comments. What would you guys guess? I know how to be a realtor.
Yeah.
Am I a realtor? Do I waste time using a realtor, or do I go find my own deals or off-market things, or do I use a realtor when I'm buying myself?
I'm actually curious what people say. I've had a couple of people say there's no shot you use a realtor.
I'm sure.
I'm going to say you definitely use a realtor.
Okay. Well, let's go to your second question, Chris, and then we'll have people go to the chats and we'll say what they think about it.
Yeah, and I want to be respectful for the time too. So I understand if someone else wants to jump on, but this conversation is about the state of the market, and there's a concept right now that a lot of people feel, and that is obviously you can't time things and you can't predict the future, but keeping your money maybe invested in something like the stock market that's going to recover hopefully right now, and as the stock market starts to recover, real estate starts to cool off. Maybe they start to lower the rates again next year also to try and attract investors back into real estate. And then you take that opportunity to go from investing in something like stocks back into real estate. So saying pause for a moment for 6 to 9 months so that we can be at a different space with rates, as well as hopefully have more capital to pour into real estate.
I got a little distracted by lightning. Can you sum up for me what you were asking there?
Saying timing the market, invest in stocks while they recover, while real estate may go down.
Okay, so the problem is if you do that, how do you know real estate's going to be done going down?
Say that again?
How do you know if you buy stocks waiting for the market to go down, then you cash out your stocks, you buy real estate? Is that what you're proposing?
Yeah, and even if the stock market doesn't go down, maybe it just kind of stays flat for a minute, and then the Fed decides to bring. What's that?
How do you know when real estate is at the dip, when it's time to buy?
More so when the Fed starts to transition to maybe lowering rates back down, and hopefully you've had this time where your money in the stock market where it's recovering, so you have more capital actually to pour into real estate, maybe in 2023.
I'd be like, if you put your money in the stock market and the stock market goes down, your money evaporates and you have nothing that you can do with it. And if it does better, your return I feel like the risk reward is way off balance there. It's not like the stock market has potential to explode up out of nowhere, but it does have potential to drop very, very quickly. So the problem is, no matter where you invest, stocks or real estate, if you wait long enough, it's okay. The problem with real estate only hurts you if the prices have dropped and you have to sell. Then you can get in some trouble. That just rarely ever happens if you're a cash flow investor, that you have to sell and it happens to be at the time the prices are low. What you're talking about with the stock market is you theoretically would never lose money in the stock market either if you never had to sell. If you wait long enough, it's going to go up. But you need that money to buy real estate. So you got to cash it out at some point. You're playing musical chairs and you're hoping the music doesn't stop before you get to the chair, and you have zero control over that. My butt would be puckered so tight, my brother. Like I would want nothing to do with, and the return I would get would be a little bit more money. It wouldn't be that much, right? Like you would make less money doing that than what Kyle would save you in closing costs if you negotiated the deal with the right agent, right? Like I wouldn't be thinking that way. I'd be thinking, how do I find a better realtor? Guys, this is just my opinion, okay? Don't use, unless you know them, a realtor from Redfin, a realtor from any discount brokerage. And unless you know them really good, I'm also a little nervous about EXP. I don't want to say too much negative things because there are a lot of good realtors with EXP. But in general, those brokerages draw like the worst of the business. And if you're an EXP realtor or a Redfin realtor, that does not necessarily mean you're the worst, okay? I'm sure there's some really good girls that happen to be at a club in Miami at some point. But if you're just playing the numbers game, you're probably not finding the church girl at the club, right? You don't go there to find a wife. So I think if you look at it, Chris, like you want to find a really good agent that loves negotiating and making their clients money, that knows how to find the motivated sellers, that can read listing agents, that loves their job. They don't love making you happy. Okay, this is a thing to keep in mind. There's realtors that love to just make people happy, and they become waitresses and waiters. What can I do for you? Oh, you'd like me to write an offer? Okay. What would you like me to write it at? How would you like your steak, right? You don't want that. You want the waiter, like the French waiter that's kind of a butthead, that's like, oh, monsieur, that is a terrible decision. You cannot get that. I recommend the rack of lamb, right? That tells you what you should order. Those are the better realtors. You want them to say, no, why do you want that house? Look at this one. More square footage, better location. They took horrible pictures that they posted online, but I bet you I can get it for $100,000 under asking. That's the realtor. You would be way better off putting the same time into that than putting your money into the stock market.
And when someone like David and Kyle sees that realtor in action, they know they can negotiate stronger. So they know they can go beat that realtor, right? So you don't want that person to be the one representing you because they're losing against someone like David and Kyle, right?
Every time.
And
that's not BS, man. Like I target them. The house that I bought in Pleasant Hill was a Redfin realtor.
Yep.
And she did her commission for a discount, and the seller was an idiot. And we just chewed them up so many times because they were bad. It got so bad that my agent on my team, Johnny, was now talking to the seller directly instead of going through the agent and telling him what he should do because we out-negotiated them so bad. And now he's taking advice from my realtor on what he should do. How do you think that worked out for him, right? Part of when Kyle's making calls to look into deals is he's like, yeah, this realtor is really good, man. We better come in with a strong offer, and that's our only shot, versus this realtor's an idiot. Let's go in. I bet you they don't even look to see what the closing costs are. Thank you for that, Kyle. Right? Like one of the tricks that I'll use is instead of saying I want $20,000 in closing costs, I'll put a seller to give a 3% concession for buyer's closing costs. And the seller who's reading the offer does not even look to see that what 3% closing costs concession means. It's just like, I think it confuses them and they don't even look at it. But if you're buying an $800,000 house, that's me asking for a $24,000 credit, right? We'll read the other realtor and look for ways to get that in there. We'll give them an inspection report that they don't know how to read and be like, oh, this house is going to fall apart, man. Look you got termite damage. We can't buy a house with termites. When in reality, it's like a $700 problem. Wow, that lightning.
Holy cow, that was in the backyard.
That was serious.
I felt that.
If I go swim in the infinity pool right now, would I be electrocuted? Is that a terrible idea? Okay, Chris, you don't like
Thumbs up in chat for yes. No.
Okay, let's see what people said about if I use a realtor. Kyle, did you kind of see that? What's the
let me take you through. So here we go. Going all the way back. Carrie says absolutely he does. Katie says realtor. Dude Real Estate says agent. Julian Colvard says uses a wizard. Nicole says realtor. So yeah, absolutely. We're a lot of people. Everybody said realtor. I don't think one person said it was just you, David.
All right. Go ahead, Christian. Finish up while you're asking.
Why you're using a realtor? No, I just think using somebody who has specifically like whether it's asset type experience or it could be location hyper specific. We just met with funny enough, we mentioned this. We were literally just meeting with a Scottsdale realtor today. She was in this house with us because we're trying to get local expertise, whether it's into short term, long term, whatever it is. Right. And we want somebody who we know we have confidence in negotiating in that market. Because I mean, Scottsdale's got, the soccer mom that lists her friend's house because she met her at soccer practice. Are you kidding me? Put David up against a soccer mom. He's ripping like that. There's no competition there. right? He's going to get the maximum seller credits, the maximum purchase price, everything, right? So obviously, yes. For those that were wondering, the answer is obviously yes. He does use an agent. Good Lord.
You think we could get a guy to deliver a pizza in this weather right now if we called for one?
I don't think so.
I know the guys watching this are probably frustrated with why we keep looking around, but it's like a very intense storm that came out of nowhere. So, all right. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Julian Colbart says, we ripped a Redfin agent a new one on a $2 million listing in Georgia about a month ago. Seller paid all closing costs, and our due diligence was like 40 days on a home that needed no work at all. So here's why that works, okay? If the listing agent keeps letting you extend, which they're probably going to do if they're not very good at their job, man, it's hard to keep track of.
It's hard to focus, yeah.
Christian here doesn't.
Us Californians are not used to this.
Holy cow! I'm from LA. We don't have that.
Yeah.
If they let you keep extending, they get to the point where they're afraid that you're not going to buy the house at all. Now, in the last 10 years, if they would have just kicked you out of contract and they'd have had 3 other buyers that would have came in the next day because people needed a house. But now that's not the case. Sellers are in a position where they're like, either I give them what they asked for, I might not sell my house at all. So if he was able to get someone to wait 40 days in this escrow, they were definitely able to come back and ask for seller credits for things that were in the inspection report that you used to like not even have a contingencies you couldn't even ask for. One of the benefits of being in this market with higher rates. And like I said, if you can use seller credits and now buy down your rate, you get the house at a better price, you get the house at all that you never would have got, you get to buy in a better area than you ever thought you could have. And your rate isn't that much higher than what they used to be because you're able to buy it down. If you understand how to use these tools, you have some really cool creative options. Let's bring in our friend, Derek Sherrill. Is it Sherrill? Am I saying that right, Derek?
Yeah, that's right, David. Thanks.
The ADU guy. He's up in the Sacramento area. We've had him at meetups. What's going on, Derek?
Hey, howdy, guys. Thanks for the time. Thanks for doing this. Whoever made the thumbnail is a rock star. I love that. And Kyle, you're the master, like DJ there. I see you managing. Kind of a
That was David's idea on the thumbnail.
Cool. Yeah, well, it's all those years of saying quick tip in that high voice. He's like, no, put me in something cool. I just wanted to ask, state of the market. This is for both Christian and David. So David, with the David Greene team and all your master house hackers, the masters, you got Johnny, you got all these people. You've been doing it for years. Have you seen an uptick in clients looking for ADU properties? And then Christian, for you, have you had issues with ADU financing as far as like appraisers calling them out as duplexes instead of single families? And then also, have you used any of the new federal language Fannie Freddie stuff and their new write-up to use potentially 75% of that income towards DTI?
Stuff. Yeah, I'll let David answer his part first. I got you on my part.
Kyle, what have you seen with a lot of our clients that are ADUs a popular thing people are looking for in a home?
They are extremely popular right now with the interest rates and how high they've gone. People are looking to offset their mortgage. So they're looking for something extra revenue. So it is a hot button topic right now. Just about everybody that comes in, the first question they ask is there multifamily available? When they find out there's no multifamily, then they want to pivot over and start looking for something with an ADU. And if we can find it, great. We'll look into it, see if we can get them into it. But if we can't find an ADU property, we're going to talk to them about potentially, doing some sort of house hack where they can add an extra bedroom, rent it out, Airbnb it out, or potentially connect them with somebody like you and have them consult with you and see if it's possible to build an ADU. By the way, are you on the beach right now, or is that the ocean that I see in the background there?
Yeah. We ran up to the Oregon coast for the weekend, and I've got the girls, my wife, and 2 dogs in the house. So I had to escape out here. This isn't like, look at me, I'm at the beach. It's like, this is the one spot where I have quiet.
You got
really pretty out there.
You sound really clear for being outside.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's just on the MacBook. Just probably just lucky.
Better than us. All right. So Thank you for that, Kyle. Here's a few things about ADUs that I would say. Keep in mind, when houses were selling like hotcakes, I would often give advice that the ADU bang wasn't always worth the buck. Now, it's not like ADUs are bad. If the house already had an ADU, it's better than one that doesn't. But if you're going to build an ADU from scratch, sometimes you got to put $100,000 into building an ADU. You can't really get financing. Back then, I would have said, hey, you're probably better off at that point to put that money into new property if you can find one. However, Now that houses are not selling like hotcakes and your house actually has to have some amenities that would attract a buyer, an ADU becomes much more desirable. If your house has an ADU and the other 5 houses that you're going against don't, you can definitely sell yours for more than theirs. So the market has been unhealthily hot, much like this weather is very unhealthy right now, where I'd be standing outside. I'd be frying. Yeah. Christian does this thing. He always does where he counts the seconds between the thunder and then he pretends to be Thor and he like throws an imaginary hammer and then all the lightning comes.
I got the timing down though.
Yes, you did. So having ADUs is definitely, in my mind, like more desirable because the market should never be that hot. Like you should be, as you improve your property, you should be getting the money back for that. Well, when everything just sells, like no matter what, everything gets kind of put out of whack. Yeah. So the other thing I would say is the point of having an ADU is to increase the income that your property makes. Well, there was a time where you're like, I'll just buy a duplex. I don't have to worry about it. I'll just buy a triplex. Well, now the financing on small multifamily is not as strong as it was before. You don't get the same 5% down that you used to get on a lot of those properties. You can still get the 3.5% to 5% down on a single family property that has an ADU, or in California, we can have 2 of them now. So if you're a person who's selling, you have a way bigger buyer pool. And if you're a person who's buying, you should definitely look for a single family house, usually in a better neighborhood with better zoning that has ADUs that you can get in for the better loan programs than putting 10% down on the triplex. Did I mess anything up there?
No, that's good. And I think you our guys here, Derek is very knowledgeable about the recent changes too. I'm surprised not many clients actually know about that. So it is true. Freddie came out and said you've never been able to utilize rental income from ADUs. It's always just been deemed an extension of the main unit. You've always had to actually have a legal duplex, triplex. Your first question was, have we had issues with appraisals treating them as duplexes or triplexes? Not as much, but mainly because, once again, kind of a little difference in working with us and people who buy houses ourselves. We on the lending team kind of coach the appraisal. And I want to use that word carefully because there's very limited impact that we can really have on valuations of properties, but we can tell them, hey, this is a single family, see the zoning. This has an ADU, separate ingress, egress. We're going to ask you to evaluate it's a form called a 1007. That's just industry jargon. It's the rent schedule, right? It's the schedule that tells us how much the house would rent for. And now there's actually a place for the appraiser to report 1007 ADU income. Right. And that's very powerful because people who were buying single families in the past, house hacking is great, but it wasn't usable income in terms of mortgage qualifying. Right. You couldn't use the income that your ADU would be making because the conventional guidelines just didn't catch up. Now they allow you to take 70. If you got a ADU that would rent for $1,500, we can go get 75% of that, whatever, $1,200, whatever it is, we can use to add to your income. And that honestly may be the difference. And a lot of you think, oh, well, now I don't qualify because the rates went up. $1,200 in ADU income would make up whatever difference in the rate it was, right? And a lot of lenders don't know this has happened, right? So absolutely, are we seeing an uptick in that interest? Not only an uptick, but we're now purposely advising people that this is now possible, right? So we're bringing it up in conversations where otherwise people may have just said, I have to buy a duplex. My other lender told me I got to buy a duplex. That's the only way to do it. ADUs are a really good middle ground now that the lending guidelines have finally kind of come back around.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for kind of spelling that out. It's always good we can read it and we can talk about it, but to hear, a top shelf lender broadcast it, I really think that drives it home for a lot of people that are listening. So yeah, awesome. Yeah, great stuff. Thank you. That was basically all I had. And I'm sorry I'm going to miss the meetup there coming up in a few weeks. I had an obligation in the middle of that week, or I would have been up there.
We will be having more, Derek.
Okay, yeah, well, this is going to become a fairly regular thing. David and I really want to. Obviously, we have consult calls with individual people and introduction calls and buyers presentations. But really giving you guys a place that you can come to hey man, what are you doing here? Run these numbers for me. Let's work through stuff together I'm an insurance broker. I don't know if any of you guys know that. I can advise you on your insurance policies, right? Bringing all that together where we can really adhere to our name, the OneBrokerage and the David Greene Team, and just giving you a place to just come to just for advice. Doesn't have to be get a loan right now, right? But offering these so that we can obviously keep the day-to-day offerings on getting a loan right now, but you guys would have somewhere to come that we can just advise, right? We hang out. I think we're going to Top Golf or something, Kyle, right? On the retreat. We also have some fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks for taking my question, guys. I appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Derek. All right, there's him. And then we got Lawrence Brock coming in.
Hey there, Lawrence.
How you doing?
I'm drying off. I went outside really quick to make a video, and that.
I'm actually Lavertus Brock, but I couldn't log into mine. I had to log into my brother's.
Oh, you're the one that had the career that we were saying you should come in and ask your question.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm doing a refinance through y'all OneBrokerage right now.
Awesome. Please let me know. My email is christian@theonebrokerage.com. We're super big on feedback. Let us know if the experience is good, bad, anything, because we do constant training with our team. So if anything makes you feel shaky, not advised correctly, tell me. It will be addressed immediately. Right?
Okay. Okay. One of my questions, I didn't know you was an insurance broker. Right now I'm in the process. I've talked to an insurance company because when I bought my house, I bought it cash for $120,000, and I never did get insurance and this was last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't had insurance since I bought the house. I bought the house either June or July of last year. And I called the insurance company. It's been a week or two now, and they haven't gave me a quote. So I'm still waiting on the quote. So yeah, do you give quotes in Florida? In Florida.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I'm expanding my insurance agency nationwide. I'm working on it, David. We're actually partnering in one. Right now, it's only California, unfortunately. But that is right behind the OneBrokerage. As the OneBrokerage lending company expands nationwide, the insurance company is right behind it. So unfortunately, I can't right now. I do have an awesome referral Florida insurance agent who I can get you connected with if you want to email me. Kyle, I don't know if you have my email in one of those fancy little bars there, but it's just christian@theonebrokerage.com, guys. Same way the intake email was. Shoot me an email. I can get you connected to my referral partner in Florida for sure.
Okay. And another one of my questions was, with the money, don't you think I should do a short-term rental?
With the money that you're cashing out of this one?
Yes.
I mean, you're talking to a short-term rental guy, so I'm biased, right? I mean, that's what I do. I know that's what David's getting into a lot right now as well. So, I mean, I don't know if my answer is necessarily fair there because I don't believe it's right for absolutely everybody. If you're chasing the highest cash flow and most importantly, willing to put in the work, because it is more. It's more than a long-term rental. 100%, I won't lie to you. It's more work. It's more problems. It's more complaints. Your reputation matters because reviews are important. All that kind of stuff. If you're ready to take that on, then yes, I don't believe there's a more profitable method in real estate. But that's a big question to ask yourself before you I'm just going to do it because it makes more money, right? There's a lot more that goes into it than just the bottom line, right?
Okay. All right. And my another one of my questions is what's your advice on paying contractors?
On paying contractors?
I think I know what you're
That's
saying.
a you question.
Okay. With every single problem that I've ever had with a contractor in my career, occasionally you'll see ones that do bad work. Not very common. Okay. Like usually that just doesn't happen. They don't stay in business long. So that really never comes up where people say, oh, the guy did bad work. It's almost always they didn't finish the work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
100% of the time that has happened, the person paid the contractor all the money or too much of the money.
Yeah.
Okay? I love questions like this because I'm hoping that you didn't have that happen, and that's why we're asking. That's not the part I love. But the thing I love about these questions, it is one thing you got to get right, and it solves all the problems. You don't have to be like super good, right? When you get a contractor, pay him 25% of the money or 15% of the money, or say, I will buy the supplies. I will have them dropped off at the house. You show up, you do the work. When it's done, I'll pay you for the labor, okay? And you just do it in small chunks. So what was it? Did you run into a situation where that was a problem?
Yeah, and my my friend also ran into that problem too. Like he paid the contractor, and the contractor said he lost the money.
Yeah. lost the money. Let me tell you what happens with contractors. They're not always running to Vegas and gambling it. But what they will do, they're not good in general. They're good at swinging hammers. They're good at like putting in screws. They're not good at managing a business, okay? So certain businesses have cash flow difficulties. And that doesn't mean cash flow like real estate, like I make money every month. It means cash flows in, cash flows out. And you have to manage how much you have in the bank at a time to be able to pay people. So the people that I'm paying every 2 weeks or whatever are often being paid for work they did previously. And I'm paying them with money that I made a long time ago. Well, sometimes all your money's out and now you need to get money from the next client to pay people for work they already did. That's when you run into this problem. So your money came in, you paid him $30,000 or whatever to start the job, or $50,000. Okay, more than that, right? He took your money and he used it to pay people on other jobs.
Oh no, it was just him. And I wasn't the one that did it. My friend paid him for his property, and yeah, the guy he said he lost the money, and it's just one guy, and he doesn't have a checking account because he from Puerto Rico.
Only accepts cash.
He claims he lost it.
Yeah, can you sue?
Who, me?
Yeah, can you sue him?
Zoom? Oh, yeah.
Take him to court.
Sue.
Yeah, I can Zoom. What?
Yeah.
You can't hear my audio or something?
Oh, we can now.
Oh, okay. Okay, I will get closer then so you can hear me better. Well, I'll talk louder. But yeah.
He will, if he's licensed and his license is on the line, he'll find a way to find your money.
Yeah, he's not licensed. He just do good work for a very good price.
Okay, so he's a handyman, not a contractor. That's the first piece, right? And a handyman doesn't have skin in the game because they don't have a license that can be jeopardized. So
no bank account.
So in the future, when you're going to deal with that situation, you just got to pay him a little bit of money, and I pay him after the work was done, even if it's like something like that. Do you have any options for how you can make him start doing the work now, or is he blowing you off?
Oh no, no, he ain't blowing us off. We using them now, but after this job, we're not going to use them anymore.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, though. You learned the lesson the painful way. But thank you for coming on here and telling everyone who's listening, in case they never heard it, don't pay up front. Or if you're going to pay up front, pay a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned that the hard way because, before real estate, you used to just paying a person, all of the money like you do at like a store or something like that.
I know. I hate to use this analogy because I'm not intending to compare a person to a dog, okay? But I'm going to do it anyway. If you want a dog to sit and you got a treat in your hand, do you tell him to sit and then give him the treat, or do you give him the treat and then tell him to sit?
That's true. Yeah.
We're not as much different than animals as we think. If you give the kid his ice cream and then say, eat your broccoli, that broccoli is not getting eaten. Like there's a reason we have to where it lasts, right? Just try to keep that in mind. That's human nature when you're dealing with people in the future.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks, Curtis. All right. Let's bring in Dominic. Hey, Dominic, how's it going?
Awesome, man. How are you?
Well, I'm in the middle of a pretty cool storm, and I'm a little wet, but other than that, I'm doing good.
Are you still in Florida, or do you guys go off somewhere else?
I was in Florida a couple days ago, and now I'm in Scottsdale.
Gotcha. I was gonna say, yeah, storms in Florida, especially this time of year, every day. So my question for you is, I know that you just bought a short-term rental in Fort Lauderdale. I'm in a lot of the Facebook. Huh?
How did you know that? Did I talk about it?
Yeah, on your last live.
You're kind of famous.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like in the real estate world, you're kind of sort of a big deal, but So my question for you is, I know that you bought that in Fort Lauderdale. Why did you choose that market?
That's a good question.
I know a lot of people say that it's saturated, but I would love to know your perspective.
All right. Well, the word saturated, if you actually look up the definition, I believe it just comes from liquid, right? But it's when there's too much liquid for the surrounding area to absorb it.
Yes.
Right. So when the area has absorbed as much liquid as it naturally can, it cannot absorb anymore. That's when it's going to overflow. Right. So saturated means too much supply and not enough demand. That makes sense. In real estate, everything comes down to supply and demand. If you can understand this, it stops being this like really crazy, scary thing. So the question would be, is Fort Lauderdale saturated, or is it competitive, and is it highly populated? Is there a lot of competition? That doesn't necessarily mean it's saturated. So here's where I first ran into this problem. I heard about everyone investing in the Smoky Mountains 5 years ago. And I'm like, you know what? Everyone and their mom is buying a cabin down there. I don't really get it. The Smoky Mountains can't be that popular. Like, there's too many people. I don't want to be one of them. I'm not jumping in to buy another cabin. And I didn't. And they just kept buying them and buying them and buying them. And I'm like, when is this going to stop? Like, at some point, it's got to get saturated. Well, then I actually did a little bit of research and looked into it. Christian and I bought a cabin out there. So now that I got a little bit of skin in the game, I pay more attention to what's going on. And I learned I didn't really know much about that market. It's not saturated. There is so much demand out there. The Smoky Mountains are very big, and there's several different reasons people go. So your question wasn't about the Smoky Mountains. We can get into that if you want to know, but just I'll cut it short. There's plenty of demand for all those cabins, right? Fort Lauderdale, if it was saturated, we would see short-term rentals sitting on Airbnb not booking. We would see VRBOs not booking, right? There is not enough demand for those properties. The people I talked to that were investing there did not have that problem. Christian is one of them. He's got several properties in that area. They're booking. So question, like, number one, right off the bat, when I did my research, I didn't see that it was saturated. Number two, I'm not investing in Fort Lauderdale only because of short-term rentals. That is why we all pay attention to it. But ultimately, I like that area because I think Miami's going to become too expensive, and the path of progress is north, and I'm getting to the path of progress ahead of everybody else. So that's where I think the real money gets made. Cash flow is nice. That's where you actually like make some big adjustments there. So the problem, I don't think, is that Fort Lauderdale is saturated. I think the problem is they may have some legislation coming down the pipeline that prohibits people from having short-term rentals. Now, if that happens and they don't grandfather in the people that bought properties, I could be in a tricky situation. I may have to sell. I may have to sell at a loss. I may have to rent it out normally. Now, almost every house I buy, there's a plan in place, an exit strategy. If my number one strategy doesn't work, number two is fine. So I won't have to sell, but somebody could, right? On the other hand, let's say they do grandfather in, but they say no more. That's going to make prices. That's the opposite of saturation.
Your permit's now worth money,
right? Now there's what's the opposite of saturation? There are people that are coming in, but there's not enough properties for them to rent. So you can start charging more. Now you have in a desert, it's sucking up that water really fast, right? Like, give me more, give me more. So if you're in the right market, when they say no more, that could actually be a positive for you. Gladys said, wow, I must have said something smart there. Did I say something smart? I hope I said something smart. Or maybe she saw lightning and I'm good. All right, Dominic, what are you thinking?
No, that makes a ton of sense. I didn't think about it from the perspective of if they do stop giving out permits and just grandfather whoever's in. I didn't think about that it could be, worth more just because you could sell the permit along with the unit if you decide to do that.
Or you can charge more for rent because there's less competition for the tenant to go to, right? So your daily rate should go up if that happens as well.
Yes. May I ask a off-tangent question?
Yes,
not specifically the market. So the way that you speak about real estate is different than when you hear a lot of people talk about just how you just view like you see like a house and you're like in your mind you like dice it up in different ways where other people won't. How did you get to that point? Like, where did that come from?
I like that question. I don't know how to answer it yet.
Why are you David Greene?
So go a little bit more. Keep talking.
I've been at open houses with him, and it happens in real time. It's not playing.
That actually doesn't surprise me, Christian, that he's like that. But
give me more examples of how I look at it differently, so I'm going to put together an answer while you're talking here.
Sure. So people talk about like California, for example, and how like you just go and just buy a house and try to rent it, you're not going to get cash flow because that's just not the market for it. But when you buy a house of it, I think you did it for maybe your personal residence or when you were looking for a personal residence. I don't specifically know where you are on that journey right now. Okay. But you would say, okay, this house is 4,000 square feet, let's just say. I know that just by looking at this floor plan, I can wall off this, create this into a unit, put another door over here for another entryway. Like that already comes to your brain automatically, and you can already start dicing up that house in that way. How did you get there?
Did you do that when you first started, or was that learned from projects?
No,
Exactly.
that was so what I had naturally do have, and Christian's very similar to me and Kyle also, we value efficiency. So
Okay.
like everything we do, we're always how do I do it faster? How do I do it with less steps? So like when I played basketball, I would practice the movements that we would do regularly to make them as efficient as possible, right?
Mhm.
That translated into my world as a cop. Like I like, if for instance, here's something that I would have learned. Like martial artists tend to know this. Some athletes will, but the normal person doesn't. If you decide that you're standing in one place and you need to run somewhere, what most people think is the first thing you do is take a step in the direction you want to go. Is that fair?
Yes.
That's not the first thing you do, though. The first thing you do is you drop your center of gravity, then you take a step. Okay?
Yeah.
So by staying at a low center of gravity before you have to move, you are ahead of the person who's not lower. So when you're playing defense, this is why in basketball, you always have your butt really close to the ground and your legs loaded up because your muscles are already charged so you can explode. Versus if you're standing it straight up and down and you got to move, you got to drop down, then you can go. Okay. My brain caught a hold of that and recognized that pattern. When I became a police officer and you're working with dangerous suspects, you're trying to figure out, like, is this a person that I can trust, or is this a person that's going to hurt me? So if I ask you to sit on the curbs and cross your ankles and put your hands on your lap, the reason I do that is in order for you to get up from the curb, you have to uncross your ankles, pull your feet in close to you, lean forward, and then stand up. That is 3 things you got to do before you stand up that will catch my attention and alert me to what's happening. It gives me an advantage, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then I got into business, and I realized, like, when you're trying to do a lot of stuff in one day, which is what you have to do if you want to be a top producer, I would literally catch myself like, Jesus, I got to go from this screen and log in and find the information. Then I got to go to this screen and I got to click it around. I got to refresh it. Clicking from screens for an 8-hour day or a 10-hour day can literally reduce productivity by 14 or 15% just because you're bouncing around. If I could get everything done in one screen before I go to the next, I can be faster. And my mind started to look for these little tiny hacks that when performed 400 times a day, if you can do this faster, you can be way, way, way more productive. It's the same thing when I worked in restaurants. The normal waiter goes to the table, asks what they want, goes to the kitchen and gets it, comes back out and gives it to them, asks the next table, what do you want? Runs to the bar, goes and gets it, brings it back, right? I would go to every table, say, what do you want? Go to the kitchen, get every table's thing, go out and give it to all the people. And I had way less steps than my competition. When I got into real estate investing, that natural desire to be more efficient started to like impose itself onto the properties. And as I noticed that clients were unable to find a deal that would cash flow, I started looking for ways that I could help them. And one of the obvious answers was, well, like, why do they need a dining room and a living room and a bonus room and a family room? Okay. No one's using all that, right?
Literally, we're talking about this house. We've talked about this house so often since we've been here because it makes no sense. We're in this big living room.
Funky.
And then a kitchen separates that living room. It's so weird. It's a funky layout.
So this kitchen right here, you see this wall that separates the room where the pool room is from where we are.
It's right here.
That should be on this side,
like way over there.
And if they did that, then the kitchen would be open. So you'd be looking from the kitchen into this area and into the area that we are seated at. Okay.
Right.
My mind sees that stuff without really having to think, because I've looked at enough homes and I'm like, what would be the most efficient use of this space? It's a desire for efficiency that is like, that's what it's born out of, right? It's not necessarily creativity. It's more just like, man, if you're going to spend all this money to build a floor plan like this, why would you do it? That it would be better to do it the other way. Now that that's locked in my brain, the next time I'm walking a house, I can't unsee that, right? It almost like screams at me, this is not the right way to do it. Just like if I saw a guy playing defense, playing basketball, standing straight up and down, it would scream at me, that is bad. He's going to get beat. Or if I saw a cop letting a person get way too close to their gun, it would scream at me, that is dangerous. You're not supposed to do that, right? What happens is when you think a thought enough times and you drill it in your brain, it attaches to your emotions. And you don't have to think anymore. It feels wrong. You're like, oh, this is dumb. Right away, it feels like that cop should not let that person. If I watch Cops, I can't take it. I cannot handle it because they do the stupidest things on there and my PTSD kicks in. I'm like, people are going to die. Why would you do it, right? So this is why Brandon and I used to tell people, analyze deals all the time. You pick up on patterns. Now, I pick up on patterns when it comes to the floor plan of the house, right? I pick up on patterns when it comes to ways to make the deal more efficient. Like I gave you guys some examples. Don't just ask for the lowest price ever. Work in closing cost credits because sellers don't pay attention to those. Use those closing cost credits to buy down your rate because that's going to save you $150,000 over the course of the loan, not $8,000 that you could have asked for up front. But it all comes from a desire to be efficient, right? So this is why I started the David Greene Team and the OneBrokerage, because we want the people that are you guys to be working with our company so we can use these skills to be helping people. Now, at the same time, I also will admit I will get jealous if you guys go work with another realtor. I will get jealous if you go use another loan officer, right? Like if my teammate gets beat on defense, Kyle can attest to this. I'm not happy about it. Like, why did I work that hard on defense if you let your guy score because you were standing straight up and down? So it also comes with a price. You know, like I'm a competitive person, but the competitiveness is what drives me to look for these efficiencies that we can do to improve something. So I appreciate you asking that question. Did you have a follow-up to it after hearing my answer?
No, I think the thing I took from that is just reps, you know.
Yes.
Obviously, you have your whole life of building up into efficiency, but the thing I could take from that is just reps and learning to see things with that perspective of efficiency. So thank you for answering that.
Two guys playing basketball, okay? And they're both having the coach put them through the same drill. It's reps. One of them is absent-mindedly just going through the motions until practice is over and he can be done. The other one is thinking this is the fourth quarter with 4 seconds left. We have a 1-point lead. I cannot let this guy get a shot off. It's Kobe Bryant. He will make it if I do, okay? And every rep he's thinking, how can I be a little faster? How can I noticed certain things about the way my body moved because I would think that way. I noticed that when I was running really hard in a certain direction and I would then plant my foot to stop, if the floors were dirty, I would slide. So I learned I have to play basketball different on dirty floors. You cannot take big steps and you cannot take an explosive step. You have to chop up smaller steps so that you're never planting hard, right? I don't think that my competition noticed that they would have to move their body differently because they were just going through the reps of the drill, not thinking about how to be better. If you're looking at every deal saying, how would I make this deal work? What price would it need to be? How would I need to change the floor plan? You know what? Like I noticed track homes rarely ever work for house hacking because I've done it enough times. The pattern just isn't there. They don't build the right floor plan to make it work. You can't put separate entrances in. It's 2 floors, but you got to walk in the front door to get to the stairs. So now how do you get the people that you have a separate unit upstairs? If you approach everything from that perspective, your brain will start to pick out these patterns and you'll be like Neo in the Matrix. You see what the agents are doing. You understand this is just code. It stops becoming like emotionally scary anymore. And that's why I like to share the perspective I have, because when you don't know what's happening, you're just scared all the time. All you see is a really fast basketball moving around and people smacking into each other. When you actually like get into it and it slows down for you, real estate stops being scary and you won't have a lot of the emotions that hold you back from building wealth.
Got it.
Thanks, Dominic. That's one of my favorite questions.
Thank you so much.
So thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it. Thank you for answering, man.
All right, Nate Shields, which sounds a lot like Jake Shields, which is a Bay Area MMA legend. Nate, how often do you hear that?
Never. That's the first. So, but I like that.
You've heard of like Nick Diaz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they trained together in Pleasant Hill
Okay.
with him, and they both fought in the UFC for a long time. Not that you asked, but what is your question?
Yeah, I've got kind of a growth question. We've got about $1.5 million in real estate assets. We started investing in 2016, me and a buddy. Right now we have roughly $1 million in equity, and it's more of just a growth question. Like, how do we move to the next level? One of our challenges is that my buddy is a financial planner, and I guess for legal reasons, he cannot do what's called selling away. So we can't raise money. We can't raise capital. So all we have is our own capital in the business, but we do have equity right now. What would
Might have lost him.
I wonder if that's our connection or if that's him. Nope, looks like.
I think it's him. Oh, there we go.
Gotcha.
do you guys catch that, or do I need to repeat that?
Yeah, we lost you right as you explained you guys couldn't raise capital, and then we lost you. You cut out there.
Okay. Yeah. So we can't raise capital because he's a financial planner. But we do have equity, across our properties. What would be, I guess, wouldn't necessarily have to be the fastest way to grow, but without us putting more money into the business and using the equity we do have now, how would you guys approach that? As we'd like to grow to 10 million, 20 million, 30 million in assets over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have a lot of equity. You said 1.6 valuation with $1 million equity. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Got it. So why don't we just play a numbers game here? What's your net income on the properties, if you don't mind sharing? Just we're gonna run a little ROE experiment here.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I'm not the best person to ask that. My buddy would probably be better to ask that.
Like a range. I'm close.
Yeah, if I had to guess, so our biggest property is a 20-unit building.
Okay.
That's probably bringing in 80,000 gross a year.
Okay.
80 to 90, somewhere in there. And then across our smaller properties, maybe another 30,000, something like that, 30 to 40.
Okay. So we're around 100K gross.
Okay.
Fair. Yeah. 100K gross on $1.6 million in assets, right? I don't know what your expenses are. I would assume you said it's a 24 unit complex.
We've got a 20 unit complex, and then we've got a 4 unit, a 2 unit, and a single family.
So I'd assume at least on the 20 unit, you got some expenses there, right? I'm assuming you got CapEx is fairly significant there. I would say that return on $1 million in equity, if you're netting out, if 110 is your gross, your take home maybe 40 on $1.5 million in assets is what, close to a 2% return, maybe 2.5%. It's a pretty low return, right? When you think of return on equity. Now, if we're talking ROI, I don't know what you guys put into that deal. You said you started buying around 2016. I would assume your capital contribution was significantly lower than the $1 million in equity you have right now.
Correct. Yes.
You
much lower.
redeployed that, specifically targeting sectors or properties that, yes, while you're taking on debt, that $1 million in equity, if you put 20% down, could buy $5 million in real estate, right? And your portfolio value just 5x. And you're with $5 million in real estate, I think we can get more than $100,000 in gross income.
Is what he's saying making sense so far, Nate? Or is it confusing?
Yeah.
So what do you think what the profit margin was? 100K in gross.
110K gross, $1.6 million portfolio.
But what's the net? What's the profit?
He doesn't know the number, but probably around maybe 40, I'm estimating. One of them is a 20-unit apartment complex.
So you think you're around a 40% profit margin likely? Is that safe to say?
40,000. So 4%. On $1 million in equity.
Oh, well, where's the 100,000 coming from?
That's his gross.
Yeah, so you're taking a step ahead.
Yes.
So if you're making $40,000 in a year and you're dividing that by $1 million, or was it 1.5?
1.6 portfolio.
And what was the equity in the portfolio?
$1 million.
Okay. So if you have 40,000 in profit for the year and you divide that by the $1 million, this is what Christian did in his head because he's a computer.
Sorry.
Like you said, it is 4%. Okay. So you're earning a 4% return on the equity that is in your deal. This is when we talk about our return on investment versus return on equity, ROI versus ROE. If you took that $1 million and you got a, say, 10% return on that, that would be $100,000 instead of $40,000. So you'd 2.5 times the money that you're making right off the bat. And then you could also you could take that money and reinvest it and now have more debt you're paying down, more upside, another opportunity to do some value add there. So every time I redeploy money in real estate, I'm looking for it to give me a return in several ways. What everyone looks at is cash flow. What's the ROI? I want an ROI, and they just stop right there. I want to get a good ROI, cash on cash return, but then I say, how can I get a property under market value? I call that buying equity. I want to buy some equity. Then I say, how can I add value to this property? That is forced equity. How can I add square footage? How can I fix it up? How can I make it nicer? How can I go from the area I'm in to an even better area? So now in that situation, I have natural appreciation that's going to create equity also, like natural equity being created. So I've now made money for myself in 3 different ways And I've increased the cash on cash return from the lazy money that wasn't making it for me into the property that was. And then I also want to take on more debt than I had. So like if I sell a property where I owe $300,000, I want to buy a property where I owe $900,000 because some people don't like debt, but in real estate, I think debt is awesome because my tenant pays it off for me, right? And then as inflation goes up, if I was going to get a 5% return, if I get a 5% return on 300 grand, that's a whole lot different than if I get a 5% return on 900 grand. It's literally 3 times as much money that I'm getting, right? So every time you send your money out to do something for you, you're looking to get a better deal. You're looking to get an opportunity that has value add. You're looking to increase your cash flow, and you're looking to improve the area you're in. If you just get 3 base hits like that, you got 3 people on base. Okay. And if you do that with every single deal, real estate becomes this snowball that just starts to accumulate wealth, but you're never taking big risk. It's not like private equity, venture capitalist money where you're like, man, I'm going to dump all this money into a business. I hope it goes well. I think that's what I like about real estate is that I get like a lot of benefits to me, but it's not like I'm taking a huge knockout swing. And if I miss, I'm going to get really hurt. So I also understand that we're sort of going from, your question was about a business into real estate. You could do the same thing with another business. You could sell this business and move that money into another business that has a value add opportunity. Okay. That just like I said, you get into a better market, you could get into a different business that is in a better business environment where that asset class you're getting into, whatever it is, has a higher profit margin. You can do better. You can buy into a business that isn't operating very well, trim the fat right off the bat. That's like a value add.
The same concept.
The principles work exactly the same, right? So if you're going to make this move, first off, the question is look at the return on equity like Christian did. 4% return isn't super sexy. I think you could do better. Now the question becomes, what business could I get into if I want to get into business where I have several ways that I can add value to it? And if I don't want to get into business, can I do this with real estate?
And I was thinking of this. I think our first guest was Chris. He was kind of asking the stock versus real estate. I held back a bit there. But one of the biggest things that comes from that is exactly what David's saying. The amount of ways that you can have profitable measures in real estate, appreciation, inflation on your rents, tax savings, cash flow, expenditures or improvements that you make that ain't, sweat equity. Whereas if a stock, you're betting on the stock going up and maybe a dividend. That's like all you got, right? Whereas real estate, there's things that are so much more in your control, and there's multiple different avenues that a lot of people say, oh, the housing market crashes. Okay, well, are you still cash flowing? Okay, do you still have tax savings? Okay, your tenant's still paying your debt down? Okay, well, there's still 3 or 4 positives, even though that appreciation isn't at 15% this year that we learned is somehow normal these last 3 years, right? Even though that's gone, look at all these other positives where if a stock tanks by 40%, what's your compensation? You don't get anything to benefit from. The stock's down 40%. That's all you got, right? And then now if you need to deploy that money, you got to go sell it and realize that loss. And by the way, you can't write off more than $3,000 in stock losses. So even that's bad. You can't even take advantage of the loss if there is one, right? Which is why somebody like David realizes, man, if I want to go really maximize the velocity of my money, I want to put it into something that I can control 3 out of the 5 factors of success. And like maybe there's some uncertainty with the 2, right? But if you can control 3, you got more than 50% of it taken care of, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly why we're in real estate. So practical next steps, how do we tap into that equity, I guess? Would it be consolidating our portfolio into a portfolio loan? Is there another avenue? What would be the practical things to get at that equity?
Yeah. First and foremost, I start with a consult call with us, but you have multiple different asset types. You could do a portfolio loan on your residential properties. You're not really going to find a lender that will do a portfolio loan on your 20-unit property and your residential. So that would be multiple loan products. But yeah, obviously, I mean, I'm biased, right? We run a mortgage company, right? I'd be happy to link you up. Kyle can throw the intake email down again. But I would just start with a simple consult. There's no application fee. There's no anything like that. Like, just get on the phone with us. Let us know what the products look like. You can run your numbers and see if it makes sense. And if you can go turn that $1 million in equity into $5 million in real estate, run your numbers. Is that a better situation than what you're in now? You're not going to pay taxes for 7 years probably if you do that, right? With all the cost seg that you can get with $5 million in real estate. So I would at least start there. Good consult call would 100% be the first course of that. David's first step in his basketball analogy, so to speak.
Yeah. And
I think we lost him again.
Lost him. Okay, Kyle, can you put up that email there for
You got
Nate
it.
too?
Oh, Nate's back. I don't know if you heard us there, Nate. You cut out again for us.
No, I cut out. Sorry.
I was just saying console calling our team as that good first step because we build a plan for you, right? Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Yeah,
All
appreciate
right.
it.
Nate,
Appreciate you, Nate.
you. Nate Shields, not Jake Shields. All right. We see Nick nodding his head, which means he's probably an MMA fan. How's it going?
What up, guys? How's it going?
Are you an MMA fan? Is that why you're nodding your head there?
No. I am a basketball guy. I actually was Instagramming with you the other day. I was a basketball coach and recently retired. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to be on the show. Thank you, guys.
Well, I specifically wanted to bring you in because I really like your question. Go ahead and ask that, and we'll see what we can do for you.
Yeah. So just a quick background and then into the question. I have one house paid off worth about $750,000. I'm building an ADU on it. I just got a duplex, and now I'm kind of looking into like a great market going on your topic. So my question was, how many days on market should we be looking for now in a traditional buyer's market? That's pretty much the question.
That is a Kyle Renke question if I've ever heard one. That's our real estate day on market expert right up here. Where is he? Right here. No, why don't you take that?
So Nick, tell me what market are you in?
I'm in SoCal. I don't know if you're familiar, Rancho Cucamonga, all the way to like Covina, West Covina. So San Gabriel Valley to Rancho Cucamonga area. Yeah.
I live in LA.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. And specifically, what would a buyer be looking for?
Well, I'm looking for more of a 3-2, 4-2 with something I could build an ADU on, truthfully.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So Rancho Cucamonga, Southern California in general, it was not uncommon 6 months ago, 8 months ago to see a property on the market for 5 days, 6 days, 7 days or less, right? And then it's automatically, it's gone, it's in contract, you never see it again. So my first answer to that question is it depends on the market. There were some areas in other markets, maybe in the Midwest, where 14, 18, 20 days on the market would indicate, that's a property that is normal, right? So for what you're seeing down in Southern California, I would say anywhere beyond 10 days and later than that. So I have clients that come to me all the time and they basically say, what's the criteria we should be looking for? And I usually recommend they look at properties that are like 12 to 15 days on the market. And it's actually a really good question that you asked because a lot of sellers right now are putting their house on the market. And number one, it's either priced way too high because they still have the psychology of the last market that we were in. Or number two, they're starting to get scared because it sat on the market for 6, 7, 8 days and they haven't really gotten that much traffic. They haven't really gotten that many people who've come in to look at it. And so for you, there's way more opportunity right now than there was 6 to 8 months ago. So I think that's a great question. The second thing beyond the days of market, first of all, do you have a real estate team that you're working with down there?
Yeah, I actually just closed last week on the duplex. And again, I'm trying to just kind of decide on what's I want a great deal now. I want to make sure it's a little closer now that it's more of a buyer's market, it seems like.
Yeah. So it's okay. Number one, to be patient. Take your time and look.
Yeah.
What was that, David?
Sorry, there's lag, so I didn't realize you were about to talk. Go ahead and finish. I'll kick in when you're done.
That's all right. So, be patient with what you're finding, right? And what you're looking for. The fact that you have an agent and you're looking out right now is a good thing. But the second thing is sniffing out the motivation from the listing agent. So one of the things that like David's been doing with some of the houses he's been looking to buy is he will have his agent call the listing agent. If that listing agent picks up on the first call and it says, oh yeah, we got to get this deal done, that tells you that listing agent is very motivated to get that property sold. Or maybe sometimes it means that the seller is really motivated to get that property sold. And so beyond looking at that first metric of days on market, which you're doing, the next part is to start sniffing out motivation from the listing agent, from the seller, trying to figure out what's the deal, what's the story here? Do they have to get out of this property? Are they moving out of state? Is it sitting vacant? How long has it been vacant for? What's the motivation? Because there's a lot of sellers right now that are looking to do that. So the fact that you're willing to be patient, kind of, cast a wide net will be a good thing. David, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, there is. Actually, this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Like I was mentioning with the contractor, if you can get the one thing right, you'll never have the problem with them. Don't pay them too much, right? There's also one thing when it comes to getting a good deal, one metric, and no one talks about it. It's one of those things where I remember who it was this year that was saying, I think Dominic, I think different than other people. I don't know why other investors don't discuss this. It might be because they're not investors that are also agents, that are also brokers, right? And so they don't see every angle that I see. But if you had to give me, say, David, there's one search parameter or criteria that we're going to put into our looking for houses to write offers on, it wouldn't be number of views on Zillow. It wouldn't be square footage. It wouldn't be lot size. It wouldn't be school district. It wouldn't be interest rates. It would be days on market.
Yes.
Give me the highest days on market for every single house. I will start at the top and I will work my way down. Okay. So the longer a house sits, the more that starts to affect the psychology of the seller. And I keep telling everyone, real estate is a relationship business and a psychological business. Okay.
Yeah.
People make decisions based on their feelings. When you first put your house for sale, you think, I'm going to become rich. I'm going to get tons of offers. I'm going to pick through the ones I like most. I've been hearing everyone else talk about how well they did on their house.
Right.
You probably out negotiated your real estate agent and got a lower commission, and you're feeling yourself because you think that you're a great negotiator, and you end up hiring a crap agent because if you can out negotiate your own agent, you're not going to get a good experience with that person. And then it slowly starts to slide with every day that those amazing offers don't come into, well, how much over asking is it going to be, to, well, I guess asking is okay, to, well, asking with a little bit of closing costs is okay, to, well, I guess under asking is what I'm going to have to deal with. Is anyone going to buy my freaking house?
Yeah.
The analogy that I give on this, and I've been using a lot. Yes, that's exactly
prom
right.
girl, here it goes.
So when you get a girl who says, I want to go to prom, okay, she's a pretty girl, her first option is, I want the high school quarterback. Okay. And then she waits and he doesn't ask her. And she's like, well, damn. Okay.
And he's got less than 1 day on market.
Right.
I guess I'll take a baseball player. That'd be cool. And then none of the baseball players. Prom's getting closer. Okay. Well, I guess he doesn't have to play sport. He just has to be over 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Okay. Prom's 2 weeks away. And now she's like, well, as long as he's nice, right? I just don't want him to smell bad and get hygiene. And no one's asking. Now it's a week away. And she's like, well, as long as it's a dude, like, I'll be okay. He's like, I just want to go to prom. And then it becomes like a day away. And this is when the chess geek or the guy that had no shot with that girl now has a chance, okay? Because she just wants to go to prom. When you look at 1 day away from prom, that's 90 days on market, okay? So you're so right to start with that. That's what I do. Like, I don't need realtors to write the forms for me. I don't need them to tell me, I need them to tell me about the area, to give me local market knowledge, and I give them the search parameters. And we just had a realtor here, and I told her the same thing. Start with the most days on market, the most square footage, the biggest lot size. Call all those realtors, find out who wants to play ball. This is what you say. This is what you look for. Give me a list of those properties. That's the ones we'll go see. Okay. And in this retreat I'm putting together, I'm literally teaching people, this is why this house was listed for 1.3 and I got it for less than 1.1, because high day on market. We played the game right. We knew that the realtor was really motivated. So you're asking all the right questions. But the problem is when you're saying, what number should I start with? Like Kyle said, it's different for every market. So Southern California, 10 days on the market, that's old product. Okay, that should have sold by now. There's something going on with that house. You like Indiana or Michigan, and like 60, 70 days on market might be normal. Those houses don't sell for 3 months, right? So maybe those ones you got to go 180 days on market. And the same is true for price points. You're buying a starter home, you're buying a house that like the majority of buyers can afford. They're going to sell really quick. It's a big buyer pool. I'm buying luxury houses. I don't want to be buying the same house as everyone else. I'm like, show me that one listed at 1.8. I'm going to try to get it at 1.4 because luxury houses sit a lot longer. So they might not be panicking at 30 days because there's not as many luxury buyers, but they might be panicking at 90, right? So you kind of got to take those things into consideration. Did you have a follow-up question on that?
No, I mean, those things all make sense. I mean, everything you guys are saying. And I'm with you. I want the SoCal market. I like it. I know other people don't, because of certain landlord laws and things. But I just love the power of appreciation. And I like bigger debt. I'm learning that. I'm new to this. I've only been doing it now for about a year. And I've been following you guys a lot, and just understanding, like, I don't want a $100,000 house. It's going to go up 4%. That's $4,000 in a year. I want more debt. So everything makes sense, but I want the great deals. And that's why I've been asking you, because I'm not so certain. I've been through a pandemic now where I'm learning. So I don't really know what a normal market is for a buyer that's on market. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and there's also, let me talk about great deal, because that is subjective, which doesn't mean it's bad, because I want great deals too. I just want to maybe broaden everybody's perspective that's listening to this video of how to look at great deal.
Yes.
One way you get a great deal is you get the property for less than what it's worth. That's the obvious one that everyone knows. It doesn't necessarily mean the list price, but if it appraises more than you paid for it, or you would have had to pay X and now you can pay Y and Y is less, that could be a great deal. Another one is to buy a house that you just never would have bought regardless. Okay, how many houses hit the market in like the very best neighborhoods? Remember that one that you really wanted that had the basketball court? What? Sorry, I don't mean this is the one that got away.
No, you're fine.
That's my type of house, basketball court.
Very upset about it.
Yeah.
It was in Northridge, but it was in the San Fernando Valley, but it was in like what is that? Sherwood Forest, which is like the who's who of Northridge.
In the who's who, beautiful property, amazing backyard, full basketball court, everything Christian could ever want.
I got beat by $15,000. So upset about
man.
So a property like
That's funny.
So think about like the best, like Manhattan, New York, or right near Central Park. I'm just like these stereotypical. This is the lake house that never hits the market. Okay.
Yes.
A great deal could be you got a house in an area that they never go for sale. It doesn't necessarily have to be the price, just that location, that amenity, right? Sometimes you get a house that has a huge lot when every house around is a tract home, or amazing views when nothing else does. Okay. So that can be a great deal too, which is a lot of the ones I'm looking for. And the reason I point this out for you is that, Nick, when you're looking at homes, we don't know if the price is going to keep coming down. We never know. We can't know. So when you're like, well, okay, I don't want to buy a house because the price could come down, you don't take action. But if you're thinking, well, I know the price isn't going to come down, I'll buy now, you can be wrong. So to mitigate the risk that prices could come down further in what I'm buying, I go after homes I wouldn't have normally got.
Right.
Okay. Even if it's not the deal of the century, there's something about that house that is so unique, so rare, so hard to find that it mitigates my risk that when the market eventually recovers, it's going to become so much more. So I've got those two forces, right? Like this is a property that I never would have got a chance to get, mixed with I want to get them under market value. And if it's not a rare property, it better be way under market value. Okay. If it is a rare property, I might be okay paying fair market value because I never would have got it at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, because that's kind of what I was saying when I'm thinking of great deals. And I mentioned earlier, like I want the bigger lot for the ADU. To me, that's like the new Burr 2.0, where I could build the ADU on it, get the value add, and it's almost kind of 1%ing out here in California. 100,000 to build it, and you're getting like 1,000 rent, or 200,000, you're getting 2,500. So to me, it's like the new Burr kind of, that's your next book, I guess. But I totally get what you're saying. And I've also been thinking about, just having the sellers pay down the loan rate, or just different things that you could do. There's just so many things you could do that I'm learning. And one of them I wanted today was the market.
Agents in Southern California right now?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you working with one of our agents in Southern California?
I have not. I worked with a different one the last time, but I'll probably reach out the next time.
Yeah, well, we can put you in touch with her now. She's awesome. And if you just say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, we'll start keeping an eye out for those kind of properties and see if we can help you there.
Gotcha.
And as a lender, I've worked with a lot of realtors. Lindsay is top notch. She is very good.
Nice. My thing from what I just closed, I understand, is this is the first time I'm kind of showing everything on the taxes. So I kind of got to get that debt to income ratio correct.
Well, the game, my friend.
Loans that you don't have to, we won't look at your debt to income. We'll look at the income the property makes. So if it's a great deal and it's going to cash flow really strong, it'll be qualified that way.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys. You guys were awesome. I appreciate you every time.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, we're coming up on 2 hours here, Kyle, and I don't see anyone.
There
in
were
the
a
studio.
lot of questions in the comments. If you want to hit those, if you want to.
Yeah. What do you think, Kyle?
Sure, we can hit a few. Let's go to Daniel Kim first. He asked, back on the days on market, is it related to supply and demand?
Love this question. This is actually in the curriculum I'm creating for the retreat. We're going to be talking about this. I will come up with an analogy before the retreat. I can't think of one on the spot right now. Maybe when I start talking, I will. But days on market is your indicator of what is happening with supply and demand. So basically what I believe is that supply and demand is very difficult to actually objectively, empirically nail down. You can do a decent job with supply. I can see how many houses are on the market. I can see how many new home starts are available. I can see quite a bit about actually like the square footage, the location of the houses. I don't know everything though, because I don't know what's happening off market. I don't know what the wholesalers are doing. I don't know who's listing houses, pocket listings, but I have a decent idea of supply. I have no effing clue about demand. You don't know how many buyers are in a market at any given time, and then you don't know how many of them are motivated. The only stat I'm aware of at all that I can use to track demand would be the mortgage applications. And that's not that accurate. I mean, tons of people fill out applications, never do anything with it at all, right? And then you throw on top of that, even if there's someone who's approved for a house and working with an agent, it might be a 2 out of 10 in motivation. That's not the buyer or a 10 out of 10 in motivation. So the tricky thing, like supply and demand is a concept that helps you understand prices, but it's not something that can be measured super easily, which is why you need days on market. Days on market is the actual like empirical scientific data that you can look at that tells you what is happening in the world of supply and demand. I bet you there is a science analogy I have here. Like, remember like light photons that you learned about? Like,
oh God.
Right. A photon isn't real, but light behaves as if it was doing that.
A wave and a particle.
Yeah. So like the effect of a photon can actually be measured, and that would be the days on market. Okay. But the photon itself is like supply and demand. It isn't an actual thing that can be measured. It's a concept, right? I think you could probably do the same with like molecules. Like they show us the whole electron, neutron, and what's proton, right? And they draw a little picture for you. That is not actually what it looks like. This is a example of how we can understand what is happening. Our brains can grasp it, but it doesn't literally look like that, right? Like I think they talked about the distance.
You took more science than you give yourself credit for.
Dude, I didn't. I don't know how I know this. Like I
don't
forget
it's a
anything
probability. It's a probability map, and it's like a cloud. At any snapshot point in time, the neutron could be there.
But the electron is actually so far away in distance from.
Yes, that's it.
It's like you just couldn't even put it on something to draw, right? So, but it's still an example of like science is trying to measure the impact of something, and then they're explaining how it worked. Days on market and supply and demand are the same thing, right? I don't know how many buyers are in a market at any given time. I don't know exactly how much inventory is in a market, but I do know the result of it, which is DOM. And when DOM is growing, then I know demand is not as high as supply. And when DOM is shrinking, I know it's the opposite. I think this is a fascinating concept. It's how I make decisions in general. Should I buy? Should I not buy? How much should I be buying? There's a reason I'm buying right now more than I was ever buying before. And there's a reason it's working out well. So I would love it if you guys want to go sign up for the retreat where we're going to be teaching this in depth out here in beautiful Scottsdale and making friends. So Daniel, thank you for asking that question. What else, Kyle?
All right. We got another one here.
We got one that was
from Scott.
All right. What are your key recommended considerations when buying older homes, 20 years, 50 years, and 100 years old? Kyle, from what you've seen, where do you think we should start this one off?
So the first thing I usually say when I get this kind of question from a prospective buyer is it doesn't necessarily mean how old the house itself is, because it could be up to date. It's basically, I want to know what's been done to the house over the last 20, 50, 100 years. Obviously, when you buy an older house, it has a lot higher likelihood of a bunch of things being wrong with it. So you have to be aware of that first. So, for example, if you're buying an old Victorian home built in 1895, you want to look at the inside of the house and try to figure out what's going on. And so, number one, making sure you get a really good inspector. Number two, making sure that you actually do some really deep diving into what is going on with the property. A lot of times back in the 1800s, they didn't even really have permits, or the building codes were very, very lax. So you want to make sure that those types of properties are up to code and that they're safe. I've seen old Victorian homes, literally, they're right in the middle of downtown, but they're on a septic. And so you got to look into that, and you have to get a sewer scope inspection to make sure that it's not just going into some septic tank somewhere, but it's actually going and hooked up to the sewer, because that could be a really expensive cost down the road. The second thing is make sure you do as much due diligence and question asking to the previous seller about what they know. I've seen some buyers buy homes where the water source was not hooked up to the city main. It was actually hooked up to the neighbor for like the past 20 years. And the buyer didn't actually know about that until about 2 years after they bought the property. Yeah, it was free water for a couple of years, and then they had to pay a bunch of money to get it hooked up. So you got to make sure you do your due diligence. You ask lots of really good questions. Some of that stuff you just wouldn't know. Like, I don't think there's any way you can really test to see where water is actually coming from unless the neighbor would have told you. And then the last thing I would say is get really in-depth inspections, right? So get a really good pest inspection, get a good home inspector, and then get a really good roof inspection to know exactly what you're buying. So that would be my just initial off-the-cuff suggestions when buying an older house.
Yeah, I can speak real quick too from an insurance standpoint. I mean, on some of these 80, 90, 100-year-old homes, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever ran into them, but knob and tube wiring. It's a old school electrical format that now, I mean, hasn't existed.
No circuit breakers.
Yeah, there's like, and it's like dangerous. It's
imagine
like a major
Thomas Edison wiring your house like a light bulb.
You guys, if you want to see some horror stories, you should just Google knob and tube wiring. It looks like something you wouldn't want in your walls. But for instance, a lot of insurance companies won't accept that. So that could be something where if you're not working, with your insurance pretty early on in your process, you could waive your loan contingency, waive everything. And then you have to go with a budget insurance company that, is maybe non-admitted, and your insurance premium's $10,000 a year and you weren't planning for it. Right. So that's a big part as well. Make sure with old properties specifically, the 20-year-old home's not a problem because the codes have been updated since then. But really, once you start getting into those Victorian old school builds, run an insurance check on it. See if your guy can quote it, because there could be some stuff in there that is a no-no for sure.
Thank you for that. All right, guys, we appreciate you. It's been almost 2 hours. We're going to let you get out of here. We may be back on tomorrow night. Not sure yet, but please keep an eye out for that and spread the word. If you guys could like, share, and subscribe to this channel, we're going to keep putting out more content, and we appreciate educating you on how you can build wealth through real estate, as well as you guys supporting us with helping us grow our businesses, the David Greene Team and the OneBrokerage. If you're watching this, I'm looking to hire a person that has experience with short-term rentals to work for me managing my portfolio, and eventually we will probably be growing a property management company where we will be hiring more of them to work with our clients. So if you would like to work with me, get to know Kyle and Christian better, kind of join the crew that we're building here, reach out to, davidgreen24.com/careers. Thank you, Kyle, on the spot. On the spot right there. And let me know. This is not a position for someone who's never done this before and just wants to learn. This is not a place where I'm looking to come teach someone how to do it. I've never done this before. I'm looking to hire someone that can teach me how to do this. But I'm definitely looking for that. And I think it's a pretty cool opportunity for someone that wants to learn more about real estate investing. So thank you, guys. Thank you for everyone that put in comments. Thank you for all the people that joined and asked questions. We wouldn't be able to do the show without you. We will see you on the next one.
See you, everybody.